time, y'all. Hey, you guys, it is me, your girl, Christian Jackson, the daddy issues expert. I am here back for Wellness Wednesdays. It's been 2 weeks now because I, first of all, went on vacation with my family. We went to the mountains. Oh, what's happening? Oh, okay. I went to the mountains with my family. That was a lot of fun in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And so we had a good time just engaging and unplugging and really kind of doing a lot of things with the boys. It was one of those vacations where it really wasn't a vacation. You know what I'm saying? Because there were 6 boys between the two families that went. And then last week, unfortunately, I was dealing with the loss that really kind of brought up some stuff for me. So in order for me to bring you the things that you need to hear, I can't be in a certain space, right? I'm really big on my energy and taking care of myself and trying to be obedient to my body. So I am back. Wellness Wednesdays with CJ is back weekly right here on Instagram, my at Couch with Christian Family, my at Couch with Christian Family here on Facebook and streaming on YouTube Live as well. You can catch the replays. If you're watching the replay, say what's up to me in the comments. And you can go find me in my link in my bio to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is fairly new. I'm just filling it out, right? Trying to see what I can do. I am, again, the daddy issues expert, and I am here to give you mental health wellness tips, right? That are based on lots of the things that I see as a licensed therapist here in South Carolina. I did write the books on daddy issues. That is why I call myself the daddy issues expert. As a woman who has a difficult relationship with her father, I went to therapy a few years ago and I did a lot of work and I wrote the books. Daddy Issues, How to Detangle from the Sins of Our Fathers. This is a manual for women who are trying to overcome the shame, the guilt, the doubt, the abandonment issues, the rejection issues that come from a relationship with your father, whether it was one where your father was super active and supportive, right? Or one where he was less present and more emotionally unavailable, right? And so the book outlines what daddy issues are, because what I'm trying to do with the daddy issues movement, and you all are helping me, is trying to take away the stigma of daddy issues, that very term, right? If you want to type in the chat what you think about when you hear the word daddy issue or the phrase daddy issues, it's not very nice, right? But as a professional and as a woman who's dealt with this for a long time, what we are experiencing are symptoms of emotional trauma. And that is what we're trying to bring to the table, some empathy to the game, right? Just for us to be understood and know how to navigate those feelings and overcome them, right? So the book outlines what daddy issues are. I give you some stories to really illustrate what that looks like. But in addition, in between each chapter, you would have a chance to have some self-reflection. You get to ask yourself some questions, do some activities to increase self-care. And so you have this manual complete with activities and self-reflection questions. I like to call them speed bumps, because after you read the material, then it can be a little heavy. It can be triggering, because throughout the book, I'm taking you on a journey as you are looking at yourself, right? Assessing your own self-care, after you know what daddy issues are and how your attachment style presents itself when you're really experiencing certain relationships. And then right after that, we're talking about what does daddy issues look like in dating and marriage relationships as a mother or a cool auntie or an influencer is what I like to call them. Or what does daddy issues look like at work? What does it look like when you are engaging with your coworkers? Like, all these things are here so that you can know how your daddy issues are showing up and how to address it. And then, of course, her sister here is the workbook. And so you have a chance to expound upon the things that you have discovered when you are really aware and accept and acknowledge that you have daddy issues. You have a chance to work it all out here. And I want to say the most exciting thing that's come out of this is my recent launch of the Daddy Issues Healing Circle. I was pushing that book hard this time last year, right? And so a few months ago, I was pushing the healing circle, right? And so now everything has come to fruition, which is really kind of speaking to the subject I want to get to tonight, right? I want to talk about the healing circle. 7 weeks, y'all, was this past Monday. It just happened, 7th week. And now, next Monday, on June 21st, we're going to be wrapping up the 8-week Daddy Issues Healing Circle based on my books. And I'm so excited to actually see how we all have come together, how much we've learned. I've gathered some data, gathering some testimonials, and I'm going to tell you all about it next week. But of course, later on tonight, before I log off here and I say goodnight to you, I'm going to let you know how you can be a part of the Daddy Issues Healing Circle next time. I'm very excited to say it's working. So let's get into tonight and what we're talking about, and that is self-doubt, folks, okay? Because when I tell you your girl had a day, okay, I have been kind of in this space of just an anxious space, right? Like I was in my head about a lot of things. So as you know, Couch with Christian is a new brand, and she went through a rebrand and like a whole different presentation in the last few months, right? And you guys have been really receptive to it. I appreciate your feedback to my content. And now I'm thinking about how do I make a business that's sustainable, one that really makes a difference. I put all these things out here, my books, my content, my group, all this stuff is here, but still I'm in my head about why I can't or won't do things in my business the way that I should. There's other businesses thriving that look like mine, and I want to be just as successful. And I have all these things going on, and I'm questioning what my next move should be and why, and can I do it? So all these things are drumming up. So as I talk to you tonight about self-doubt, your girl's preaching to herself. I just want you to know that, okay? So in the spirit of really just being transparent and clear, I want to give us a working definition tonight of what self-doubt is. Self-doubt, by definition, according to Google, is the lack of confidence in oneself and one's abilities. Okay, so if we're thinking about what this really means to you, we're thinking about daddy issues symptoms. So in the book, like I said, I outline what daddy issues symptoms are. They are really related to self-worth, value, questioning oneself. It's about not really trusting who you are and your own judgment. So those things are outlined in the book that I wrote. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on the screen here. If you're watching on Facebook, then you can see here the working definition for tonight. Self-doubt is, that's not even right. Here it is. Oh, lack of confidence in oneself and one's abilities. So tonight I want to talk about like, how does that look for women with daddy issues? And why do they even bring it up? Because it's important for us to always loop it back to the woman that I may be serving in the healing circle at one point, right? And so if you're looking at, I'm going to give you two extreme examples for women with daddy issues. So if you deal with this on the spectrum where your dad was not that present, whether it was physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, he just wasn't really there or really available on that side of the spectrum, then his lack of showing up for you, I'm quite sure, like I've experienced to a degree, it helps us, it makes us question our own value. If my daddy didn't show up for me, then why would I show up for myself? So then the other end of the spectrum is the overbearing, maybe, father who was there and really was kind of critical, which we're going to get into a little bit later. Maybe it made you question things like I'm not good enough because he was so overbearing and has such an opinion about everything. And then I watched him kind of engage with other people like that as well. Then I'm starting to say, am I doing things right? I'm not sure, right? And so if we're looking at those two extreme examples now, I realize they're extreme because I talk about spectrums a lot. What about the in-between space? We're talking tonight about self-doubt, the lack of confidence in oneself and one's abilities, and how that is tied to daddy issues. That's how it looks. So if you're just joining us, catch the replay and you can go back and see what I've just defined as how that looks like, how that looks when you're thinking about your relationship with your father. And so let's get into overcoming self-doubt. And so if you're watching here on Facebook and YouTube, you can see the thing is kind of scrolling on the bottom of the screen, and you'll be able to see, okay, this is something that I need to be taking notes on, hopefully. And if you're watching the replay, please comment below whether you agree or if you want to add something or you don't agree as much. Let's have a live discussion. I'm really good at engaging with people. And so overcoming self-doubt means we have to know who we are. And I'm going to go ahead and get out what I always say pretty much every week I'm on here is assessing one's values is really, really important. I tell my clients this all the time. It's so important. Hey, Talit, to know who you are. Assessing your values means you probably have to do a really deep autopsy of what your values are. What do you stand on? What are your fundamental beliefs? What is that operating system, if you will, that really informs the way you show up in relationships and in certain environments, right? So I have an iPhone, and like for years, every September we were getting an update, right? Every year. And then right after that, because there were some bugs needed to be fixed, just like the iOS system and us getting updates for our apps and phones and things, what is it that you are doing regularly to assess and do a really deep dive look at who you are and what you stand for? When's the last time you did that? There's an activity I've talked about before because I actively do this with my therapy clients. I give them a list of like 40 values, and I have fun with them and allow them time to really just kind of narrow it down to about 10 values. What are your top 10 values? Is it friends, friendship, loyalty? Is it peace? Is it spirituality? Is it finances? What does it look like? And another thing you'll want to know is, or need to know, is that they're going to change over time. If you've just experienced a life-changing event, maybe you were married, or maybe you lost someone, to however that may look, you got a new job, there are new opportunities, you'll need to reassess your values, because as you go into these spaces with these different perspectives, you're going to need to make sure you're standing firm. And if your values don't change, that's a good sign from one maybe life event to another that that's really part of the core of who you are. So knowing who you are is important. We got to know our values. How would you describe yourself? Like when you go to an interview and someone asks like, hey, who are you, Sam? Tell me a little bit about yourself. What is it that you stand for? What do you stand against? And if you haven't thought of this, you probably need to go to that values worksheet. If you want that values worksheet or the Google form that I use, let me know. I will send it to you. Just comment below or send me a DM or a message here on Facebook or on Instagram, and I'll make sure you get it. So then now that we know who we are, right, the next step to really addressing this piece of self-doubt and how to speak life into ourselves is remembering what you bring to the table. Do you know who you are, and then what you are bringing to the space that you're occupying? Yes, Kelly, I see you down here. Values help us make decisions, right? So if I know my value is, let me see. One of my values is engagement with other people. Community is really big for me. So I was thinking earlier today, like, what do I bring to the table? I'm going to come talk to these people about bringing stuff to the table. What is it that I need to really look at? And I think it's important for me, if I'm thinking business-wise, what I'm bringing to the table is education, information, and support for women who are dealing with emotional trauma. I'm bringing books to the table. I'm bringing live videos every week. I'm bringing you content on my Instagram, on my Facebook. I'm bringing you a live group that I lead and walk with you through certain things. That's what I bring to the table. So what am I worried about after seeing the success of this, all this movement kind of taking off? What am I worried about? Why is there self-doubt? What are you bringing to the table? What skills do you bring? What do other people say about you? Sometimes it's fun to get an objective view of people who know you to remind you, because sometimes we're just too close. Once you know who you are and what you stand for, what you bring to the table should reflect that, right? So then you see how these things are comprehensive. So we're talking about overcoming self-doubt, remembering how to advertise for yourself. And when I do assessments, there's something that I do with them during the assessment part. The assessment meaning I am gathering information about clients, just about their life, and trying to get a quick snapshot of who they are in about 50 minutes, right? And it's ongoing. I get to know certain things about your medical history, your relationship history, your mental health history, of course, your habits, your skills. And I get to a point where I do the SNAP. SNAP is strengths, needs, abilities, and preferences. That's what I need to know as we are engaging in therapy. So when I'm doing the assessment with people, that is usually the hardest part, is answering, you guessed it, the S. It's really hard for people to talk about their strengths. So with that said, I literally just got off the phone call with one of my friends. And she told me that I need to look in the mirror and say my new price for the Daddy Issues Healing Circle over and over again. Because if you don't recognize it as a strength, whatever this thing is, somebody else does, they give you an objective view, then you need to say it out loud and taste the words coming out your mouth. You know what I'm saying? I think it's hard. And Kelly, clarify your question. Why is that? I think it's hard to see things because we're too close. And then we do things that we go on autopilot, and we don't really know that we're doing this thing pretty well. And we forget the value of what we're bringing to the table. And all those things, they're designed to reinforce what we believe about ourselves, right? And so if we're talking about overcoming self-doubt, knowing who you are, which essentially is assessing your values, and knowing by extension what you bring to the table, then the final point I'm going to give you today is an important piece, and that is challenging the critic. And yes, it is hard. It is hard for clients to answer that questions, the strengths, Kelly. And I get that. I don't know why, but I'm really hoping that we get better at, as clinicians, I guess, bringing that out of our clients. What is it that you know that you're good at? And let's just say it over and over again. And so, I think that challenging the critic, I've talked about this a couple of weeks ago because I was talking about people pleasing here live, and I also wrote a blog on it. It published today, as a matter of fact. And so if you want to go to my website, couchwithchristian.com, you can see my blogs, catch up on things. Sometimes they are just what I'm saying to you in writing right here on the live. And other times they are just original things I come up with. And so please feel free to comment on what you want to hear me write about on the side. So I just published a blog of how to overcome people pleasing based on what I talked about a couple of weeks ago. And I made this same point that in order to overcome self-doubt, we have to know who our critics are. The critic being that person that you hear in the back of your head when you're about to make a decision. When you know you want to do something and you want to dive in and do this thing, but then you pull back because somebody told you, now you know you tripping. Like, you know you're not really smart enough to be able to do that thing. Like that voice, right? That critical voice that has you down and questioning yourself. Once you identify who that voice is, then you can start to set up ways to challenge that whenever they come up, because it's very likely that we are in a space where we are, again, on autopilot and we're thinking all these things automatically that are negative about ourselves. So, of course, there's all these things that reinforce the self-doubt. So if you know who the critic is, who it is that you're hearing in your voice, you're imagining these things, then you can speak directly to that person in a letter. Again, looking in the mirror, doing that mirror work and saying, hey, this is actually not true because I bring these to the table. And these are the things I'm standing on, right? My values, I know myself and I know what I bring to the table. Those are two things that set you up to challenge this critic that you hear when you are doubting yourself and what you can do. And so Tylette here on Facebook is saying that when her clients struggle with identifying their strengths, she would pull out what she's observed during the session. That's one of my favorite things to do, Tylette, because again, that objective view is really what's going to help drive and reinforce things that we forget about ourselves. And that objective view can even help us challenge the critic that is in our heads, right? And so tonight we have talked really briefly, and I'm going to write a blog on this later on, really briefly, just about how you can overcome the self-doubt and make that change towards making the decision, setting the boundary, getting that job, going to that interview, saying hey to that person, because there's way more in us that we actually don't realize that we can use to push ourselves forward. So if anything happens or we get into a space where we don't know if we can do anything, it's usually because we're getting in our own way. So I'm pretty sure you can think of some things that you're not doing right now because you don't think you can do it. And I literally had that dialogue in my head all day, y'all. When I tell you I am thinking of some business decisions and moves and things I want to make happen. I know they'll happen. I know God's taking care of me through a lot of things, but this doesn't always match with this, right? Like they're not talking to each other. So how can we reconcile those things? By those 3 steps. Remembering your value, what you bring to the table, and then challenging that voice that says you cannot do it. I want to end here by thanking you guys for joining me live here tonight as we talked about overcoming self-doubt. I want to go ahead and tell you guys what's happening for me and how you can follow the movement and all those things. So let me just get right to it. The Daddy Issues Healing Circle, again, is the group that I lead live. I've had 6 women sign up this first go round. It was basically my beta testing group. Speaking of self-doubt, was one of those things I didn't think would happen. I was really nervous about leading a group virtually and trying to make it homey and really a good experience for these women. But when I tell y'all, these women have knocked it out of the park for these last 8 weeks. I am so excited. I'm going to give y'all all the tea as a good summary next week. If you want to know what the Daddy Issues Healing Circle was all about, what I got out of it, what the women got out of it, I'm going to share testimonials in different forms to let you guys know what was changing over the 8 weeks for them, because I developed a form to really show and make plain the changes from week 1 to week 8. I'm going to share all that with you so you can see the numbers don't lie, okay? The group has been amazing, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to actually do this in person. And so we're going to do it again. I'm going to give myself a few weeks off so that I can kind of regroup and really look at some things to enhance and get better and better every time. The group will be opening up July 26, 2021. We're going to start round 2 of the Daddy Issues Healing Circle. And if you are interested in applying or know someone who you think would benefit from the Daddy Issues Healing Circle, go ahead and put them on game. You know what I'm saying? Share my profile here on Facebook. You can go to my website. The link is in the bio on Instagram. You can just invite people by going to my website. They can scroll down to the home page and fill out the questionnaire. I'll get right back to them with a link so that they can schedule a consultation with me to make sure that group is a good fit for them, that it's something that they want to do. I'll be releasing more details about the Daddy Issues Healing Circle as far as the cost this time. I shared before that the $497 was an introductory price. And after putting so much work and thoughtfulness and gifting and all this stuff into it. Your girl ain't make no money, which was not the point. But I also have a family to feed, so there will be some changes to the prices this go round. But I will be offering a flash sale that I can't wait to share with you guys, because Father's Day is coming up. Father's Day is not always the most exciting time for me, especially because I have a father I don't talk to. I know I'm not the only one out there. And so just a quick tip for those of you who are struggling and anticipating Father's Day, and if you have a difficult relationship with your dad and you've read the book and it's triggered some things for you, you haven't yet made it to the Daddy Issues Healing Circle, know this: there is a such thing as safe relationships with father figures. And you have a chance to create that safe relationship. You have a chance to do that. What I do is live my Father's Day by honoring my husband like I do every day, because he's amazing and I love him. But that is how I recreate and still honor Father's Day and give him that day, despite what I have going on with my dad. So how can you do that for the men in your lives? What can you do to honor your father if your father is no longer here? Because that's a real thing, right? Then what is it that you're going to do to address that? How are you going to take care of yourself through that time? Comment below and let me know, because this can be a tough weekend for people. We don't want to forget you. I see you, sis. I see you, sir. It can be a tough thing. If you are a father, I want to wish you happy Father's Day. And I also want to extend the invitation to you. If you want to read the book, I have some men who have hit me up and said they did get the Daddy Issues book and they liked it. And so just be on the lookout for the things that I know that are coming down the pipeline for me to even add to the books, because the Healing Circle, all it was for me was a great growth and learning tool. I'm going to tell you so much about it next week. But the second edition is basically written after the group. Okay. So you can head to my website. Like I said, share it with people you know starting now to get the consultations going. Because of the nature of the group, then there will be limited slots. And so you'll want to go ahead and get that thing kind of solidified. Okay. So the flash sale does have everything to do with you solidifying your spot for the Daddy Issues Healing Circle. Be on the lookout on my email list. If you're on it, if you'd like to be added to my email list, hit me up here, DM me. There's going to be a flash sale for you to be able to join starting Friday through the rest of the month of June in honor of Father's Day, for you to join the Daddy Issues Healing Circle. And thank you, Tyler. I think I want to end with your comment here about our tribe being essential. Get some sisters or bros who motivate you. That's a word to end on. And those ain't even mine. That's my homegirl, Tyler. I love you, girl. So thank you guys for joining me live. I have been Christian Jackson, the Daddy Issues expert. Hit me up if you guys need anything. I'm very open and transparent. I will share what I can. Take care of yourselves and be well. Bye, Facebook and YouTube.